Veth-Sorath pulled the transmission from the buffer and assumed it was corrupted. The signal had been broadcasting from the Haven 6 debris field for 11 standard cycles, a looping packet on a frequency no functional vessel would use, aimed at nothing, received by no one. The Keth'aal survey drone had only flagged it by accident, its sensors catching the repeating header before the automatic culling protocols could erase it as noise. Veth-Sorath was an arbiter of the second shelf. Which meant, in the practical language of the Keth'aal Conclave, that she managed the administrative aftermath of difficult decisions. Haven 6 had been a difficult decision. The colony of 11,000 humans had occupied a resonance node the Conclave required for the Veth expansion array. The humans had refused 3 relocation offers. The Conclave had made a final decision. That was 11 cycles ago. The matter was closed. Archived. Filed under Necessary Consolidations, Volume 7. So what was this signal? She ran the decryption suite. The transmission resolved slowly, not corrupted, she realized, but dense. Layered. The outermost shell was a greeting protocol in 47 languages, human and otherwise, each saying the same thing: this message is for everyone. This message will not stop. Beneath that, a voice. Human. Female. Calm in the way that Veth-Sorath, in her 17 cycles of arbitration, had learned to recognize as the calm of someone who had already survived the worst thing and come out the other side not healed but decided. My name is Amara Osei-Bonsu. I was born in Kumasi, on Earth. My sister, HFY Osei-Bonsu, age 29, was killed at Haven 6 on the 14th day of the 3rd cycle, along with 10,942 others. I am going to read you their names. Veth-Sorath checked the file duration. 41 hours. She felt something she had no administrative category for. The names began. Not a list, she'd expected a list, something a counter could process and dismiss. This was different. For each name, Amara Osei-Bonsu said something. A sentence. Sometimes two. Kofi Mensah, age 7. He was learning to swim. Dr. Peter Havilai, age 53. She had just finished her dissertation on soil microbiomes in low-gravity environments. Her committee was scheduled to review it the following week. Yusuf al-Rashid, age 31. Every morning before his wife's shift, he made her laugh. She survived. She told us about the laugh. Veth-Sorath paused the recording. This was, she searched her administrative vocabulary, disproportionate. The Keth'aal handled such matters through aggregate statistics. 11,000 casualties. The number was entered, processed, and the cognitive weight distributed evenly across it, made bearable by its very size. What Amara was doing was the opposite. She was taking 11,000 and refusing, methodically, to let it be a number. Veth-Sorath noted it in her preliminary report as, unusual human grief ritual. Possible psychological destabilization tactic. Monitor for weaponization. She was wrong, and somewhere beneath her professional certainty, a small and honest part of her already knew it. She resumed the recording. Emre Yilmaz, age 44. He kept a garden on the colony's 3rd tier. Tomatoes. He was very proud of the tomatoes. The soul of the whole transmission lived in the specific weight of tomatoes. Veth-Sorath had administered the deaths of 63,000 beings across her career. Not one had grown tomatoes in her files. Not one had a laugh their partner now woke without. They were numbers, and numbers could be archived, and archived things could be made to stop mattering. She began to understand, slowly and against considerable resistance, that this was precisely the point. She filed a suppression request with the Conclave Communication Bureau that same cycle. The Bureau responded in 2 days, request denied. Transmission originates from a neutral debris field under International Memorial Designation, Accord 7, Section 12. Suppression would constitute a second actionable offense under the Galactic Memory Preservation Charter, to which the Conclave is a signatory. Veth-Sorath had not known such a charter existed. She looked it up. The humans had written it. 40 years before the Conclave had made first contact with humanity. As if they'd known this moment would come. As if they'd constructed the legal architecture for it long before they'd ever needed to invoke it, the way a people who have been drowned before learn to build levees before the rain rather than after. She requested a direct communication with the human representative managing the Haven 6 Memorial Project. Amara Osei-Bonsu answered immediately. She was sitting at a plain desk. No flags, no insignia, no display of institutional authority. She wore a length of cloth across her shoulders in a pattern Veth-Sorath's cultural database identified as Kent, Ghanaian, ceremonial, worn at funerals and at moments a person has decided they will not let pass without witness. Arbiter, she said. Not hostile. Not grieving. Simply present, the way a stone in a river is present. This transmission, Veth-Sorath began, serves no practical purpose. The event is recorded. The Conclave has acknowledged. The Conclave filed it under necessary consolidations. Amara's voice carried no heat. Volume 7. Page 412. We have a copy. Veth-Sorath found no immediate response. You want me to stop, Amara said. I'm not going to stop. There are proper diplomatic channels for these concerns. There are 41 hours of names. Amara's hands rested flat on the desk, unhurried. And when the 41 hours end, they begin again. They will begin again every cycle, on that frequency, until the Conclave formally designates what happened at Haven 6 as a crime under Galactic Compact law, names responsible parties, and enters it into the permanent record. Not as a consolidation. As a massacre. Veth-Sorath studied her. She had managed difficult negotiations across 3 decades of arbitration. She knew how to locate the thing someone wanted badly enough to trade. She searched Amara Osei-Bonsu for leverage and found none, because there was nothing left to take. This woman had already paid everything she had. You lost someone, Veth-Sorath said. It came out less like a tactic than like an observation she hadn't meant to make aloud. My sister. Amara didn't look away. HFY. She was a botanist. Studied how plants adapt to gravity they weren't designed for. She was 29 years old. A pause, small and complete. She never got to finish her work. The ordinary weight of she never got to finish her work settled between them like something solid and refused to be administered. Veth-Sorath thought about the tomatoes. The morning laugh. 41 hours of specific, irreducible human beings, looping through the debris field where they died, forever, under legal protection she hadn't known to block because it had been built before she knew to watch for it. What you're doing, she said carefully, will not return them. No, Amara agreed. We don't build monuments for us. We build them so the universe never gets to pretend. The Conclave Legal Division spent 4 cycles attempting to find a mechanism to silence the transmission. Every avenue closed. The charter had been drafted with extraordinary precision by people who had watched their own centuries' atrocities be denied, minimized, and archived into abstraction, scholars who understood that the first weapon of perpetrators is always the claim that it didn't happen, or didn't happen that way, or happened for understandable reasons, or happened long enough ago that dwelling on it serves no one. Those scholars had spent years closing every administrative door. You could not suppress a memorial broadcast from a neutral, Accord-designated zone. You could not challenge the designation retroactively. You could not reclassify it as a security threat without triggering automatic compact review, during which the broadcast was legally untouchable. The only path forward was through. Veth-Sorath read the full compliance requirements. Formal acknowledgement of the event, named responsible parties, permanent reclassification in the galactic record, mandatory educational inclusion for all Conclave member species. She wrote her recommendation to the second shelf. She stated the legal position clearly. Then she added a sentence she hadn't planned. I also recommend we review the filing classification of all prior consolidation events. I do not believe our archives are accurate. The second shelf approved her recommendation in 6 hours, faster than any prior Conclave decision she could cite. She suspected they had been waiting for someone to give them a reason. She transmitted the formal acknowledgement to Amara Osei-Bonsu. There was no celebration. Amara received it, confirmed receipt, and said, "Thank you for the recommendation. I read the line you added." "Yes," Veth-Sorath said. They looked at each other across 300 light-years of space. Veth-Sorath was an arbiter of the second shelf. She had spent her entire career managing the aftermath of difficult decisions. She had believed, genuinely, professionally, without examination, that management and resolution were the same thing. That if a matter was filed correctly, it was finished. She didn't believe that anymore. "How many names," she asked quietly, "do you carry? Total. Across all the events you've documented?" Amara was still for a moment. "We're still counting," she said. "We've been counting for 300 years. 14 hours after the Conclave's formal acknowledgement reached the memorial station, the Haven 6 transmission changed. Not the voices. Those continued their 41-hour loop through the debris field, the names and the sentences, and sometimes 2 sentences woven permanently into the electromagnetic record of that location, protected, unerasable, heard by every vessel that passed through on any heading. What changed was the header packet. Where it had once read, "This message is for everyone. This message will not stop," it now read. This message was heard. These people were real. Veth-Sorath was still at her desk when the updated packet arrived. She had no form for what she was feeling. No administrative category, no appropriate notation. She opened her filing system. Navigated to Necessary Consolidations, Volume 7. Found page 412. She didn't delete it, deletion was its own kind of erasure, and she understood that now with a clarity that surprised her with its edges. Instead she changed one field. Reclassified the entry manually. Changed the category from Consolidation to Massacre, Haven 6, Cycle 7. Then she sat for a long time with her hands still, looking at the single word she'd changed, and the long quiet shadow it cast backward through her career. Somewhere in the debris field, a voice was reading a name. HFY Osei-Bonsu, age 29. She was a botanist. She studied the way plants learn to survive in the places they were never meant to grow. Veth-Sorath didn't close the file. The dead don't ask us to avenge them. They ask only that we refuse to forget. And that refusal, it turns out, is the one force in the universe for which no one has ever successfully built a weapon.